Some of the biggest names in the GOP are fighting for their political futures at this point. Senators Rand Paul, Senator Lindsey Graham, among those attempting to get those poll numbers off the basement floor at this point and cement themselves on that main debate stage. Senator Graham telling us why voters will realize he believes that he's the most qualified.
It's a building process. It's going to take me time to break through, but I will. I am the best qualified person to be Commander-in-Chief. I will destroy ISIL using a regional approach to it. I will isolate Russia and Iran. We can do this with good leadership. Without good leadership, we're going to get attacked again.
He's one of several trying to make their case in New Hampshire. Chief political correspondent Carl Cameron live in Nashua, New Hampshire this morning. So, Carl, we heard from Graham. But what about Rand Paul, and others who are really just working hard to make some kind of dent in New Hampshire?
Struggling, scrambling, there's all kinds of ways to describe it. And there are several candidates who are in that boat. Today, Martha, we are exactly 4 months from the first in the nation primary here in New Hampshire. So crunch time has arrived when you separate out the holidays. They've really only got about 90 full days of campaigning and for advertising. And for Rand Paul, it's going to be tough. This is a state that he has repeatedly called his must-win, a place that he has to do particularly well at. And we are at the Republican Liberty Coalition Conference here in New Hampshire. It's an organization that's around the country filled with Tea Party conservatives and other kinds of conservatives, constitutional conservatives. Rand Paul will be speaking here later today, and he has already acknowledged that he's on the ropes. He doesn't have a lot of money. He's at the bottom of the polls, and he needs to work very, very hard. And part of what he's trying to do is get students involved, in part because the Liberty movement is in some fashion being pulled away from him by the likes of Senator Ted Cruz of Texas. Cruz made an absolutely blatant appeal for Rand Paul's support from liberty and libertarian-type voters here in New Hampshire just a short time ago. Listen.
I love Rand Paul. I respect him. He's a friend. He's a good man. He's a good voice for liberty. I intend to focus on my record. And I think the question that voters ought to ask of every candidate is, when have you stood up and taken on, not just Democrats, but when have you taken on leadership in your own party? And I would suggest that in that regard, my record is markedly different from the record of every other candidate on that stage.
In fact, Ted Cruz has often been criticized for being one of John Boehner's biggest critics, a real thorn in his side, going after the Republican leadership, encouraging shutdown politics, for which he has also been slammed even by fellow Republicans. But now he's wearing it as a badge, in contrast to Rand Paul, as he tries to court those libertarian-leaning voters, which here in the live free or die state are plentiful in both parties.
Yeah, it's giving a whole new meaning to live free or die, the action that's going on in New Hampshire right now. I mean, some of these numbers are so low that they won't even technically make the undercard debate. So what are they doing to try to turn things around?
Well, the example of that is Lindsey Graham, who's here in New Hampshire today. In fact, he's in the middle of a 10-day campaign swing. Yesterday, he was over on the western part of the state, over in Keene, going to a fish and wildlife gun range, taking some practice shots, trying to show that he can communicate with New Hampshire. As part of this bus trip, he's going to have John McCain on the bus with him. Of course, McCain's famous in the Granite State for being the first candidate to ever go to 100 town hall meetings before the New Hampshire primary here in this state, and his bus trip. So Graham thinks that'll help. But he also recognizes that he, too, has a bit of a sword over his head, and he's got to watch.
By the end of the year, I hope my numbers move. If I can do enough weddings, funerals, bar mitzvahs, friendly divorces, if you're in New Hampshire and want to see Lindsey, give me a call. Retail politicking matters. I haven't spent any money yet, but by the end of the year, I hope I have some money to spend.
Money, message, and organization. All of the candidates are concentrating on all of that. Money can be a disqualifier. Graham doesn't have a lot. Rand doesn't have a lot. A number of others. George Pataki's in trouble. There are a whole series of candidates who are trying to stay alive in New Hampshire, and we have made a major benchmark 4 months to the day, and the first in the nation primary takes place. Martha.
Scrappy and tough out there. Carl, thank you very much.